Your voice is breaking. Vishnu.
Your operating frequency
Ah,
around 2 to 8 gigahertz. Then the bandwidth is around 5 megahertz.
for 4G,
Yes, sir.
no, that is for 3G networks, not for 4G. Hmm? Yes, sir. Anybody else? What about others? Yes, I'm asking others. Yes, you should open up your mouth. See, you're there, not 2 hours. Whoever is there, they should be able to say in what way uh, the mobile communication has been upgraded. One is the bandwidth, right? So in case of 1G, each user requires a bandwidth of 30 kilohertz. Even in 2G, that for GSM, it was 200 kilohertz. In 3G, that is in CDMA 1 and CDMA 2000, it is of 1.25 megahertz. Then WCDMA, which uses a bandwidth of 5 megahertz, but in case of 4G LTE, it is uh, possible to accommodate a scalable bandwidth, that is from 1.4 megahertz, 3 megahertz, 5 megahertz, 10 megahertz, 15 megahertz, and 20 megahertz. So that is the flexibility in the bandwidth. Okay, so that is one of the key uh, point what I wanted to stress. Okay, in other versions of the mobile network, the bandwidth was fixed, but in case of 4G LTE, it is possible to have a flexible channel bandwidth. Okay. Yes, sir. Anything else other than that? That is one point I said. Similar to that, hope you are able to see my slides. Yes, at least for whether you are able to see my slides
Yes,
or
sir.
not. You can't say yes or no.
Yes, sir.
What is
Yes,
this?
sir, it's visible,
See, when I
sir.
ask technical question, if you are hesitating to answer, that is fine. But at least to feel that, okay, I am in touch with you people, whether my slides are visible or not. For that also, if you are not responding, then in what way it will be fruitful, this discussion? Huh? Okay. Hope I made now that slide presentation. I hope it is clear. Are you able to see this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so I will be discussing about module 1, that is starts with actually what are the key requirements of LTE design. Okay, so the first and foremost requirement is the performance of this LTE should be on par with the wired broadband system. Okay, so by using a wired broadband, that is DSL and other techniques, whatever the speed and other things we are able to achieve, that should be achieved with this wireless technology. So that is the first requirement, what I can say. Okay, to do that, uh, there are two network performance parameters. One is the high throughput, and second one is the low latency. Okay, by achieving these two network performance parameters, we will be able to do that. Okay, so to do that, so as I said, one is a scalable bandwidth, so it can support different bandwidths, that is 1.4 megahertz, 3 megahertz, 5 megahertz, 10
Excuse
megahertz.
me, sir.
Yeah,
Sir, the slide is still in first slide only, sir.
first slide only, it is not changed.
No, sir. It's not been in slideshow, sir.
Okay, Yeah, what about now?
Now it's in second slide, sir,
Yeah,
but not in slideshow.
yeah, not in slides slow. Okay, is it fine? Is it visible?
Yes, sir, visible, sir.
I think I will go with like this one level because if the slide is not changing, that will be difficult now. At least you are
Yes,
saying.
sir.
Thank you. Okay, I think it is visible now. I will move with this pattern only. So as I said, the performance of this LTE should be on par with the wide broadband system. Okay, I said with the wide broadband, able to achieve high bandwidth, right? The same thing can be achieved by using this wireless technology, that is LTE. So to do that, I said two network performance parameters are highly important. One is the throughput, and the second one is the low latency. Okay. So to achieve a high throughput, so it has the flexibility in supporting different bandwidths. So that bandwidths, what I mentioned is here. That is 1.4 megahertz, 3 megahertz, 5 megahertz, 10 megahertz, 15 megahertz, and 20 megahertz. So there are the different bandwidths it can support. Okay, this LTE can support. These are the different bandwidths. But in other versions of the networks, it was only used to support one fixed bandwidth. Okay, but here there is a flexibility, right? So that depend on, means if I have a mobile which can support 10 megahertz, so it will be supporting the lower versions of that also. That is from 1.4 to 10 megahertz. If I have a handset which can support the 20 megahertz, means it can support the lower versions from 1.4 to 20 megahertz. Okay, so with this scalable bandwidth, we will be able to achieve throughput. Okay, the targeted peak throughput for this LTE was for downlink transmission. Okay, it is 100 Mbps. Okay, with 20 megahertz spectrum, and the uplink. Okay, this is the peak throughput. What is targeted for this LTE is that for uplink it is 50 Mbps. Okay, when the spectrum is 20 megahertz. Hope you are able to understand what I am saying. The targeted peak throughput or peak data rate is, as said, for downlink, that is from base station to your mobile station. It will be what? 100 Mbps when the spectrum is 20 megahertz. Okay, when the bandwidth of 20 megahertz is allocated, during that time it should support 100 Mbps. For uplink, the targeted peak throughput is 50 Mbps. Okay, when the spectrum is 20 megahertz. That is from what? Your mobile station to base station. Okay, and so this is this peak throughput is achievable or accessible only for few number of users, right? But with this, see the targeted increase of the spectral efficiency when compared to the lower versions of the network, that is HSPA, is during this downlink, it will be of 3 to 4 times, okay, as that of HSDPA, and for uplink it will be of 2 to 3 times of HSUPA. So the HSDPA means high speed downlink packet access network, and HSUPA means high speed uplink packet access network. Okay, so I said that the second thing in is low latency, right? So we say ultra low latency. So the targeted latency for this LTE, it should be less than 10 milliseconds. Less than 10 milliseconds. That is the what round trip delay, what we say from user equipment to the base station or server, we say. Okay, and the next thing is the reduced call setup time. So call setup time, right? So the transition time, that is from idle to active. Okay, it should be of less than 100 milliseconds. Then the transition time, that is from dormant to active, should be less than 50 milliseconds. Okay, so these are the targets which has been set for LTE. Okay, at least the key takeaway from this slide is you should be able to say the requirement, the first most requirement is the performance of this LTE should be on par with the wired broadband system. Okay, how that is be able to achieve with the possibility of improving or meeting the high throughput and low latency. So what is the targeted throughput? I said for downlink, it will be of 100 Mbps with a spectrum of 20 megahertz. For uplink, it should support 50 Mbps when the spectrum is 20 megahertz. Okay, and what I said about the low latency, it should be of 10 milliseconds. Okay, the latency should be less than 10 milliseconds. Okay, this is very important, the latency for especially delay sensitive networks, delay sensitive activities like voice, right? Then gaming. For such activities, latency is important. The next thing is high capacity per cell. Okay, with a spectrum of or bandwidth of 5 megahertz, you should be able to accommodate 200 users per cell. Okay, and for other spectrums, you should be able to accommodate 400 users. That is what the requirement. Then the next most important parameter is the mobility. Okay, so this LTE is optimized for low speed, that is 0 to 15 km per hour. Okay, that is high performance for speeds up to 120 km per hour. Means mobility, you all know. So when the user is traveling at this speed, it should be able to provide the connectivity. That is what the meaning of this. Okay, and the mobility maintained even for speeds up to 350 km per hour. And this LTE, as I said, it is a 4G network, right? So it should support the lower version of the networks also. That is what the meaning of this coexistence and interworking with lower versions of the networks. Okay, and next requirement is what handover between 3G and LTE. Not only between 3G and LTE, even it should be between 2G, 3G and 4G networks. Okay, and that handover time in real time, so it should be less than 300 milliseconds. For non-real time services, it should be less than 500 milliseconds. And I think yesterday I said it supports both modes, that is FDD and TDD, that is frequency division duplexing and time division duplexing modes. Okay, so FDD requires paired spectrum and TDD requires unpaired spectrum, right? Hope you got some idea what are the key requirements of this LTE design. So to sum up the previous two slides, just again highlighting few things. One is the performance should be on par with the wide broadband. I said the two network performance parameters that will drive user experience are, one is throughput, high throughput, and second one is low latency. As I said, the low latency should be less than 10 milliseconds. It is targeted for 4G LTE network to enable support for delay sensitive applications like voice and interactive gaming. Right. The next thing, as I said, the flexible spectrum usage. Okay, this LTE can be deployed in these different bands. That is, it will be deployed in 900 megahertz band, 1800 megahertz band, 700 megahertz band, and 2.6 gigahertz bands. And I said it supports variety of channel bandwidths, that is from 1.4 to 20 megahertz. And this LTE should coexist with the lower versions of the networks, that is 2G, 3G, even non-3GPP systems also. So non-3GPP systems are like Wi-Fi and WiMAX. The next most important thing is reducing cost per megabyte. Reducing cost per megabyte. So this requirement, okay, is very important, and it has been achieved by keeping the targets of what? High capacity, high spectral efficiency air interface, than by having a flat architecture with a few network components and protocols. So this is possible to reduce the latency. Then a single IP packet core for both voice and data, and it should support, that is self-configuring and self-optimizing network and technologies to reduce installation and management costs. So these are some few requirements of this LTE. Okay, so just it is a base for you people to understand, okay, why LTE is required. Okay, what are the requirements of LTE? So to achieve these requirements, what are the key enabling technologies? Okay, actually your syllabus starts from this point, but directly I cannot say what are the key enabling technologies and features of LTE, right? First I should tell what are the requirements. After saying the requirements, I can say to meet those requirements, okay, the enabling, or I can say the key enabling technologies are these things. That is, one is orthogonal frequency division multiplexing, that is OFDM. Okay, the second one is, the second technology is what? SCFDE, that is single carrier frequency domain equalization and single carrier frequency division multiple access. Okay, the third thing is channel dependent multi-user resource scheduling. I will discuss about each technology in details. So it is a beginning, right? That is why I'm mentioning the name of those technologies. Okay, the fourth one is the multi-antenna techniques. Okay, the fifth technology is IP-based flat network architecture. So these are the 5 key enabling technologies which have been suggested for meeting the requirements of the LTE, or which have been adopted, okay, and evolved to meet the requirements of LTE. So now let us begin with the first one, that is orthogonal frequency division multiplexing. Let us try to understand what it is, how this technology has been chosen, okay, for this LTE. What are the advantages of this technology made them to choose this one for LTE? Okay, is that fine? So at least we'll be able to say what are the key enabling technologies and features of LTE. So these 5 technologies names should be able to tell. And this has been, and in the meantime I'll tell even examination point of view also. So this has been asked in the previous exam for 5-6 marks. Okay, so or even 10 marks also. So 5 points each may carry 2 marks. In that way 10 marks it is. But not just mentioning the names, you should be able to tell in brief about each technology. Okay, that we are going to do now. Yes sir, any questions to ask? Okay. Okay, so let us begin with this OFDM, that is orthogonal frequency division multiplexing. I said, okay, first let us try to I think you have already studied about frequency division multiplexing, right? And let me say in what way this OFDM is different from frequency division multiplexing, right? The first figure is the what? Frequency division multiplexing. We call this as conventional multi-carrier modulation technique. So here we are using different carriers. Is able to see the slideshow? Yes, I'm asking, is it possible to see slideshow? FDM versus OFDM, you can't.
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, so if it is with slideshow, I can take laser, and if I move that laser, you will be able to see what I'm saying. But I will find out why it is not coming. Okay, you're not able to see my cursor movement now. Is able to see this FDM picture?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So here there is a gap, right? That we call as a guard band from. So this is one. I think each this one you can think of one modulated signal. Okay, this may be at F1, F2, F3, F4, F5, F6, F7, F8, like that. So that F1, F2, F3, and all are the carrier frequencies. Say if I have 10 message signals, each message signal will be modulated by using different carrier frequencies, right? And to avoid interference between neighbor users, we have a guard band. Okay, that is what the concept of FDM. But in case of orthogonal frequency division multiplexing, so what we do is we have a overlap carriers. Okay, these carriers have been overlapped. So with that, there will be no interference between the neighbor users also, and we will be able to save the bandwidth also. So that is what is shown here, right? And these carriers which we use for modulating the signal will be orthogonal to each other. Okay, so with that, what we can say is by using this OFDM, we will be able to save the bandwidth. Means when we are saving bandwidth, we will be able to accommodate more number of users. Okay, just to understand in a layman fashion. Okay, let me take the next slide where I can say what OFDM is. Right, I said in the previous slide, we use overlapped carriers, right? So I hope you all be able to see this. So this is the first subcarrier, and this is the second subcarrier with the different colors I've shown now. One is with red, next one is with blue, next one is another color, right? So I have three subcarriers here. First subcarrier, second subcarrier, and third subcarrier. And I hope you might have seen this type of waveform when I was discussing about the inter-symbol interference, Nyquist criteria, and all in the digital communication, right? So what type of pulse, what I can say, is a sync function, basically, okay? So you see their side lobes, right? So it is reaching zero, it is crossing zero. At that point, another subcarrier will have a peak value, so that there will be no interference with the neighbor signal. Okay, so no inter-carrier interference. So which is shown here. Right, these are all the zero crossings. Right, at that point, another carrier will have a peak value. Okay, so with this, we will be able to avoid the inter-carrier interference. Okay, so to say in a few words, simple words, what I can say, the OFDM, that is orthogonal frequency division multiplexing, divides the spectrum into larger number of tightly packed narrow subcarriers. Okay, so if I have a 20 megahertz spectrum, I can divide the 20 megahertz spectrum into what? 21 megahertz subspectrums. Okay, if I have a subspectrum of 1 megahertz, then I can have 20 such this one, right? So that's what the meaning of that. Then at the peak of each subcarrier, okay, so all other subcarriers have the amplitude 0, right? At this point, see another peak is there, but other signals will have a 0 value at that point, right? So that will avoid the subcarrier interference. Fine. So to get again some more better understanding, I kept this slide. So with the sync function, I hope this is a null point what I said, or we can say zero crossing, right? This OFDM allows higher density of carriers without generating inter-carrier or inter-channel interference. Okay. So what I wanted to say is this OFDM is used to increase the spectral efficiency, right? So the carriers will be selected so that each carrier frequency will not encounter any influence from any other channel spectrum. Okay. Yeah. So this is the basic thing what I wanted to convey. We all know it is a rectangular pulse, right? The Fourier transform of this rectangular pulse. So this is in time domain. If I take its Fourier transform, it will be a sinc function, right? So here the term subcarrier is important. You should know what is a subcarrier. See, this is what TU is the what per subcarrier modulation symbol time, okay, which is equal to 1 by delta F I have written. So this delta F is the what subcarrier spacing. So in frequency domain, you will be able to understand that what is delta F. That is the first null, right? Delta F, then 2 delta F, 3 delta F, and so on. So this delta F, 2 delta F, 3 delta F, and are the subcarrier spacings of the signal. So 1 over that subcarrier modulation symbol time will be the what per subcarrier modulation rate, what we said. So and this is how we describe this sync function. Okay, sin pi by pi x. Yeah, just to throw some more light, I said OFDM is a multi-carrier system with narrow, tightly packed subcarriers, right? So this is the conventional multi-carrier modulation. I said what I shown in the previous two previous slides, right? So modulation happens at different carrier frequencies with a guard band, but here there is no guard band, and there will be overlap of the spectrum, but and these carriers are orthogonal to each other. With that, we will be able to save the bandwidth and increase the throughput. Okay. So in OFDM, the subcarriers will have a frequency response, right, which results in overlap in the frequency domain. That overlap does not cause interference due to why it will not cause interference, because those carriers are orthogonal to each other. Okay, so because of their orthogonality, there will be no interchannel interference. Hope you understood what is OFDM and in what way it is different from conventional multi-carrier modulation. Yes, do you have any questions to ask? Yes, my dear students, you should respond. Do you have any questions to ask about OFDM? This is just I'm telling the basic definition with the picture. In what way the conventional multi-carrier modulation, okay, is happening, and what is OFDM? How it is different from conventional multi-carrier modulation. Okay, if you don't have any questions, I will ask you some questions. I will not proceed further simply. Yes, any one of you can say how in OFDM there will be no inter-channel interference or inter-carrier interference. Yes, any one of you, is it possible to say what component makes the OFDM not to have this inter-channel interference? Yes, quickly. Yes, I have asked a question. Even if I also sit like you people, then there is no meaning, na? Yes, quickly I want response. Unmute and talk, na?
Sir, signals will be orthogonal to each other. So at that
Very
point,
good.
interference will not
Okay.
occur.
Yeah.
At the
So because of orthogonality of the carriers, what we choose, right? Because of that orthogonality, there will be low interchannel interference. Okay. So what is the advantage with respect to conventional multi-carrier modulation in OFDM?
bandwidth
Saving
will be
the
saved.
bandwidth.
Yes, saving bandwidth. We will be able to save the bandwidth, right? Because of this overlapping of the spectrum, right? Since they are orthogonal to each other, there will be no interchannel interference. We could save the bandwidth. So by saving bandwidth, we will be able to increase the accommodate more number of users. So high throughput will be improved. Okay. So let me say how this is happening in brief. Then we'll see. Hope you are able to see this now. Able to see
Yes.
this slide? Yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
this slide is an just understanding about. See, if I want to achieve high data rate, right? If I want to achieve high data rate, the symbol duration will be less, isn't it? How the symbol duration and data rate are related, you all know. So bit rate RB will be equal to 1 by TB, right? Hope you are understanding what I am saying. RB is the bit rate, right? Which is equal to what? 1 by TB, where TB is the bit duration, right? Because they are inversely proportional. If I want more data rate, I need to decrease the bit duration, right? So when the symbol duration is small, right? And as we all know, the signal travels in channel. Since the channel is a wireless channel, it will not be only one line of sight path. Okay, there will be non-line of sight paths also. So it takes multi paths, right? So when it is reaching at the receiver side, the signal from each path will be reaching at the receiver at a different intervals of time, because each path distance will be different, right? So when the symbol duration is very small, and at the receiver side, if the signal is reaching at a different intervals of time, so there will be a overlap of the first symbol and the previous symbol. Okay, that overlap is known as the inter-symbol interference. Okay, hope this point is clear. I wrote here high data rates, right? Then with wireless, it will have a non-line of sight environment, because since the channel is wireless, it takes different paths to reach the receiver. Because it takes different paths, that is multi paths to reach the receiver, right? At the receiver side, what happens? Because of the different paths, there will be overlap of the signal, right? First symbol with the previous symbol, like that. That is known as the inter-symbol interference, I said. So this inter-symbol interference is a function of what? Symbol duration and as well as delay spread. So what is the delay spread? Okay, the delay spread is the what? Is the duration of the signal which is reaching at the receiver through different paths. Okay, so here I have shown three paths, right? This is one path, and this is another one, line of sight path, and this is another path. So the same signal will be reaching the receiver through different paths, right? So how much time it takes, that is known as the delay spread, right? So if when the symbol duration is small, then only I can achieve data rate, high data rate, right? So and I have to go for higher modulation, higher order modulation, like 16 QAM or 64 QAM. So in what way it leads to ISI, this multipath and delay spread? I've given here an example. If I have a bandwidth of 10 megahertz, okay, what will be the symbol duration? So 1 by 10 megahertz. So 1 by 10 megahertz is nothing but what? 0.1 microseconds. You all agree with this? So symbol duration will be equal to 1 by bandwidth. I have considered an example that I have a signal which is having a bandwidth of 10 megahertz. So its symbol duration will be 0.1 microseconds. Okay. Here I said now the multipath, the delay spread, I am considering that it is of 10 microseconds. Okay. Due to this multipath, okay, the signal will be reaching at the receiver through different paths. Will be the duration is what? 10 microseconds. Then at the receiver side, okay, is it possible to say up to how many symbols I can expect this intersymbol interference? Already I have written the answer, but you can think and say. I said there will be overlap, right? Since the multipath duration is 10 microseconds and my symbol duration is 0.1 microseconds. So up to how many symbols there will be an ISI, that is intersymbol interference. Hope you are getting my question. See, delay spread or multipath duration is 10 microseconds. My symbol duration is 0.1 microseconds. Okay, when the delay spread is of 10 microseconds and when the symbol duration is 0.1 microseconds, so till how many symbols I can say that there will be an intersymbol interference?
Multipath divided by TS.
How much it becomes?
100.
100 symbols, right? So with this, up to 100 symbols, I can expect there will be intersymbol interference. Okay. So then how do I overcome this problem? See, I wanted to achieve high data rate, right? When I want to achieve high data rate, the symbol rate has to be small. Okay, the symbol duration has to be very small. So when the multipath or delay spread is more, how do I minimize this intersymbol interference? So what has to be reduced? So I cannot reduce the symbol duration because I wanted to achieve high data rate. Okay. I need to reduce the what? Delay spread rate. So how do I do that? Okay. So I will say how it can be eliminated. Okay. Hope you're able to see this slide. So that is possible with the use of OFDM. Okay. So what we do in OFDM is, see, the input is what? High data rate signal, right? That will be having a short duration. Okay. So I pass that signal, means zeros and ones, through serial to parallel converter. So if I do that, what happens? You think that a series of data is coming, okay, with a small duration. I am passing that through serial to parallel converter. So when I do that, what is going to happen? Are you getting what I am saying? Are you able to imagine I get zeros and ones, okay? Let us say 100 zeros and ones are there, okay? And its duration is, just think it is 0.1 microsecond only. If I do the serial to parallel converter, what is going to happen with serial to parallel converter? Yes, what is the function of serial to parallel converter? The incoming serial data will be converted into parallel bits. That parallel bit may be what? It may be, to consider, to understand simple, let us say it is 00, 01, 10, like 11, like that. Okay, if I have 8 bit of data, hope you are getting now. I have 8 bit of data at the input side. If I give that to the serial to parallel converter, I get at each output of the serial to parallel converter as what? First maybe 00, then 01, then 10, then 11. So not shown here, only shown 3 this one, okay? So when I split that serial data into parallel data, what is going to happen? is that the symbol duration is going to increase. I have discussed QPSK. Even in QPSK also I am doing that. What you are doing? Odd bit and even bit we are segregating, no? Right? When I segregate odd and even bit, what will be the duration of odd bit and what will be the duration of even bit? Is it 2 times? Yes, are you able to understand what I am saying? When I pass serial data, okay, through a serial to parallel converter, when I do that, this short bit duration data will be made what? This high data rate will be converted to low data rate, okay, with longer symbol duration. Then each symbol will be modulated by using different carriers. So here modulation is happening. With one is with the F1, another with the F2, another with the F3, and so on. Right? Then what I'm doing? So at each side I'm getting one impulse signal, right? If I modulate with the F1, F2, F3, and so on, then I'm adding that. That leads to the OFDM signal. Okay. So just to say example here, what I've considered a bandwidth of 10 megahertz with the symbol duration is 0.1 microsecond. Here, this operation, what multiplication, that is modulation, can be achieved by using FFT. You all know what is FFT, that is fast Fourier transform. Okay, I am using endpoint FFT, which is of 1024. The value of n is 1024. And here the subcarrier spacing, right? What is that? 10 megahertz divided by the value of n. That will give you the subcarrier spacing of 10 kilohertz, right? So with that, the OFDM symbol duration will be what? 1 by delta F. So which is nothing but what? 1 by 10 kilohertz, which is approximately equal to 100 microseconds, right? So now the OFDM symbol duration will be of 100 microseconds, right? And then what I can say, my symbol duration is only 0.1 microsecond, right? So 10 into that delay. If I have a delay of what I taken in the previous example of 10 microseconds, right? Then till that there will be no intersymbol interference. Hope you got this, my point. I'm saying here no intersymbol interference with this technique. Yes. Yes, is this clear how this high data rate will be converted into lower data rate by passing through a serial to parallel converter, then modulating each symbol by different carriers, then summing up will give you the OFDM signal. Okay. For still better clarity, I have another picture where you will be able to see with that what I used to say now. This is the incoming serial data that has been splitted into what? Parallel one by passing it through a serial to parallel converter, which I have not shown here. I'm just indicating here. Okay, that is passed through. See that entire thing here, modulator, right? With these things will be replaced by IFFT. Okay, that is inverse fast Fourier transform. That will take care of that in digital domain. Then I will be getting the signal, right? That will be transmitted over the air. So this is a complete picture of OFDM transmitter and as well as receiver. So the receiver, what happens? We will be receiving that. We do FFT in the receiver side. Then we'll get back that signal. Then again pass it through parallel to serial converter. We'll get back this data. Okay. So just have a catch of this point because it is very, very important to understand how OFDM technique is working. A basic principle. Why I am using IFFT and FFT is because these are computationally efficient. You all may be aware of this, how much efficient it is with respect to other techniques. Okay. Hope I conveyed what is OFDM with respect to this diagram, and I said how here the intersymbol interference will happen, right, with this multipath delay spread of 10 microsecond, and with this how we will be able to, by having subcarrier at this spacing, how we can avoid that inter-symbol interference. Okay, fine. So it is just in 2-3 slides I could convey what is what about OFDM, just to understand the advantages of this OFDM in the use of LTE. Okay, so now I said no, the first technology is the OFDM, right? That is orthogonal frequency division multiplexing. Let me say those advantages here. Okay, the first advantage of OFDM, what I can say is it is an elegant solution to multipath interference. Okay, so I go on with the example. I told how smartly it can avoid the inter-symbol interference, right? I said inter-symbol interference happens due to multipath propagation of the signal over the channel, right? At high data rates, I said the symbol time will be shorter. That small delay leads to inter-symbol interference, right? So that will be overcome by using this multi-carrier modulation that is known as the OFDM. Okay, this multi-carrier modulation technique can overcome that inter-symbol interference. How it is done? I have written in words here. What I have shown in the previous slide, 2 slides, has been written in words. Okay, first what I did, that the high bit rate data stream will be divided into what? Several parallel lower bit rate streams. That is, I gave here in diagram, right? High data rate stream, okay, is split into lower data streams by passing it through a serial to parallel converter. That I am showing here. It also very clearly shown. I gave example, right? So a high bit rate data stream is divided into several parallel lower bit rate streams, and then we are modulating each stream on separate carrier. Those carriers are known as the sub-carriers. Okay, so by splitting the data stream into many parallel streams will increases the symbol duration of each stream, so that the multipath delay spread will be only a small fraction of the symbol duration. Means now the symbol duration is much more than the delay spread duration. With that, I can say there will be no inter-symbol interference. And this OFDM is a spectrally efficient modulation technique. I said already how it can save the bandwidth because the carriers are overlapping and they are orthogonal to each other. Even if I have any residual inter-symbol interference, that can be eliminated by using guard intervals between the OFDM symbols, okay, which are larger than the expected multipath delay. Okay, so with that, I can say inter-symbol interference can be completely eliminated. The thing is, by adding that guard interval, right? So I will be using, means I will be wasting the power, and as well as that will decrease the bandwidth efficiency. Okay, so that is happening only in case of if I want to remove any residual inter-symbol interference. Otherwise, absolutely there is no issue with this modulation technique. So this is the first advantage. What I said, the first advantage is of OFDM is what? It provides an elegant solution to multipath interference. Okay. Yeah, the second thing is, that is the second advantage of OFDM, is reduced computational complexity. Okay, I said we will be using fast Fourier transform and the inverse fast Fourier transform for implementing the OFDM. Okay, because we are using IFFT at the transmitter side and FFT at the receiver side, there will be a reduction in the computational complexity. Okay, so the computational complexity of OFDM will be this one. So I can write with this formula, that is O of B into log B into Tm, where B is the bandwidth and the T suffix M is the delay spread. Okay, this is how we say with the use of FFT and IFFT, this is what the computational complexity of OFDM. Okay, and this value is much lesser than the traditional method. So in the traditional method, to overcome the multipath interference, or what we can say intersymbol interference, we use time domain equalizer. Okay, that time domain equalizer has the computational complexity of this much, that is O into D square into TM, okay, which is much higher than this is the use of OFDM method. Okay, so this reduced computational complexity is an attractive advantage, especially in the downlink, because it will simplify the receiver processing, and also it reduces the mobile device cost, and as well as the power consumption. So when the power consumption reduces, the battery life increases, right? So which is most requirement or required one, isn't it? Hope clear this point. The second one, how the use of this OFDM can reduce the computational complexity. So with that, what are the advantages? Yes, I expect you people to say what I said. What is the first one? First advantage is what? Aishwarya, can you say? Aishwarya, see, only
Yes,
once
sir.
I will call. Only once I will call. All are to be alert, and only you will be able to respond if you are with me. If you are listening continuously my lecture, then only you will be able to say yes immediately. So don't make me to call twice, thrice, or 10 times. I will not call also. I will make objections, sir. Yes, Shreyas, you can unmute now. Shreyas.
Yes, sir.
Unmute, man, unmute. Yeah, Aishwarya, quickly, can you say what is the advantage of OFDM? I just discussed two advantages. At least you can tell any one. Aishwarya, yes.
Yes, sir.
Basically, what is the advantage of OFDM? Only 2 points I discussed it so far. I am asking you to tell any one out of those two. ಏನು ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ನೀವು ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಯಾಕೆ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ? ಈಗ ಹುಡುಕ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ಏನ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಏನ್ರಿ ಯಾಕೆ ಅಟೆಂಡ್ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ ಕ್ಲಾಸು? Yes, what about others? Other students, I need not mention the name. What is this?
It improves the quality, eliminating intersymbol interference, sir.
Yeah, I'm asking what are the advantages of OFDM? In what way OFDM is a better choice which is selected for LTE? I just discussed the two advantages. Yeah, one, what you said is correct. It can overcome the intersymbol interference. Yeah, what is another one? What about others? I'm asking others.
Reduce computational complexity.
Yeah. How does it reduces the computational complexity? Vandana, can you say? How do I say this OFDM?
By using FFT and IFFT, sir.
Okay. Where FFT will be used and where IFFT will be used?
FFT is used in serial to parallel port, sir.
Means I am asking
From
whether it
highway
is
to
used
low
in
rate.
it is used in receiver or transmitter.
FFT is used in receiver, sir.
Receiver, very good. So IFFT is used in the transmitter side. Okay, so with the use of FFT and IFFT in implementing OFDM, I said, what is the formula I said? The reduced computational complexity. Yes, Chaitra. I have told the equation, okay, for saying how much the computational complexity can be reduced with the use of FFT and IFFT. Chaitra is there? Yes, Keshav Venkatesh. Keshav Venkatesh.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what is the equation I can say, man, for saying the reduction in the computational complexity?
Yes, sir.
What, man, says they are not responding? Yes, Keshav Venkatesh. Are you able to hear my voice?
Yes, sir.
I think I'm getting echo. What, man, is there in the slides? O of B into log of B into Tm. I said B is the bandwidth and Tm is the delay spread. I think you can unmute. Yes, unmute Keshav.
Yes, sir. It's unmuted.
No, not unmuted, man. You're not unmuted.
Hello, sir. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, now I'm able to hear. But you have to unmute because I'm getting echo. Yeah, I said with the use of traditional method, which is used for combating the multipath interference. So what is the technique is, that is the time domain equalizer. So if I use the time domain equalizer, the computational complexity is of this much, that is O of B squared into Tm. Okay, and which is much higher than the computational complexity what we get from OFDM. Okay, so this, as I said, this reduced complexity is an attractive solution, especially in the case of downlink, because it will be simplifying the receiver processing, and also it reduces the mobile device cost and power consumption. Okay. Okay, I think with this I will stop for today's session. You all can write your USN in the chat box.